Blessings to all from Scotland. As you know, for some time now, I've been taking time out from the world stage. For some of you, you know this is time to take to meditate, to focus our energies forward for the year. Some for ourselves, some for the world. My time's been spent writing some book, preparing some content for you all for this year. And today's episode is another wonderful interview with Crystal Tyme, the YouTuber, the astrologer, the lovely lady from Canada. And in this episode, we're joined with another guest. We have a Welshman, truly well outspoken, deep researcher into a lot of the ancient dot connecting. And I thought this episode would be a really interesting one for you all to enjoy. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Crystal. And once again, blessings from Scotland. I hope this content is good. Please like, share, subscribe.
I just discovered like there's this big void in the sky called Hercules Corona Borealis. It's the biggest thing in the sky. It's this massive void. It's like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of miles wide, and it's just like a big giant void. They don't know what it is, but they happen to call it Hercules Corona Borealis, which is Hercules is the hero, right? He's the hero in the story. He would be like King Arthur. Okay. So then what's funny is, this wall, this void is called the Great Wall. It has two names. So this is why Trump keeps going on about his wall. And Trump had this big speech when he was at the Alamo last week, a few days ago. The whole speech was about the wall.
Another synchronicity, at least.
Yeah, he even mentioned civil war. He just flipped the word in. Civil war. It didn't make any sense. It didn't even like conform to a sentence. Like he said, "Oh, the reconstruction of the wall, civil war, blah blah blah," and I was like, "What?" Like it didn't even. it wasn't structured into the sentence even properly. So I was like, "Oh yeah, of course. It's all about the wall dividing the souls, and this wall is esoteric of the Axis Mundi, which is the great ice wall, and Mount Zion's behind it. So it's like it's all to do with the division of souls. It's weird. It's like, and it's just weird, like, because once you understand the esoteric, you see it through history, but now you see it in this timeline. What's happening now? They're reusing it. So it's like what
the ancient myth rather than altering the stories. And could it be because it's just the alignment of the trigon? And then are they doing it because they know it's a repetitive cycle to get other people to awaken?
It's partly to awaken. Yeah, I think it's part of the awakening, because like people that are a little bit more open-minded to understanding esoteric knowledge, you're going to pick up these little synchronicities and you're going to go, whoa, what's going on? It's going to it starts to expand your mind, because you realize that the timeline reloops. So once you understand that time isn't linear, it's circular, and they're just kind of reinventing the same story over and over again, you start to realize that they're just trying to zap your emotions onto the pillars, right? So the whole goal of spirituality is to take the middle pillar of the Freemason thing. It's like you need to be on the spiritual ladder, not the fire and moon pillars. You want to be on the middle pillar, which is ruled by Venus and Mercury and Saturn. It's like air and earth. You don't want to be on the fire and the water. The fire and the water is like ice and fire. They showed that at the Super Bowl with J-Lo and Shakira. They were basically ice and fire. They show it at all these big, huge rituals, the whole thing of the pillars and the phoenix. Like I think was it the London Olympics? They used the big giant phoenix. Yeah. So you can say it's nefarious, but at the same time, you have to push past that part and get to the part with why are they doing this? If it's so nefarious, they wouldn't show you.
Well, the phoenix, right? There's a phoenix painted in the UN building on a big painting in the middle, and the phoenix has got its skin at its
Mhm.
feet, and then it's surrounded by all the world leaders, and that's something that's been there for ages now. I think probably 50
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. Yeah, but then people look at it and go, "Oh, it's the world order, it's a new world order," and then that symbol becomes a negative symbol. But if you go back in history and learn what that symbol was, not what somebody's telling you what it is now, go back and back and back. Well, the phoenix is the soul. It's the soul. It's in you know this by you know, you can get this proven by going at Glastonbury. Glastonbury is a very important zodiac reference point because you know, they created all the zodiac into the town, like all through like the monuments and through the landscape. And if you go, I found historians that have, like, you know, kind of resurfacing this knowledge, and the the Aquarius sign is really the phoenix. They didn't keep it as the Aquarius of the man pouring water out of the jug. They put it into the phoenix, and there's the chalice well, the chalice well, which is all goes back to Jesus mythology about the well being wine, and I think in paganism it's blood, but it's the blood of Christ. But that chalice well that has the Vesica Pisces on it, um, which is a sacred geometry, which is all to do with the
It's still a tourist site
But that
yeah,
in England.
is,
yeah, it's a tourist site. Yeah,
well,
that's the eye of the
that's
phoenix.
that's not the right place though. Glastonbury that's the wrong area, because I think you'll find this interesting. Glasdenine is an oak tree, is a type of oak tree which is found in the Midlands.
Yeah, it's all to do with the tree of life.
Yeah.
Now, all these symbols are to do with the tree of life. It's to do with the sigillaria tree, which is the first tree on the planet. It's 300 million years old. It was a moss tree that looked like an obelisk. And the last day of Saturnalia, which was December 23rd, which would be the day of light, really the sigillaria day. Okay, and this all ties into you becoming light, you becoming ascended. Okay, so all this Freemason symbolism, all the mythology, it's all to do whether you want to be on the middle path or are you stuck on the pillars and you just see everything as nefarious and negative. It's really, you get to the point where you realize it's all a dipole, it's all polarity, and the divine is the dipole. It's like the vine. It's the vine going up the pole.
Well,
okay, so
well, funny you should, with a few of the words you've said, triggered a couple of things in my head. Is where Glastonbury really is, where the oak trees are in the Midlands in England, is where the illustrious of the British kings are actually buried. And from there down to London, you have the ancient highway, straight road.
Interesting. Yeah, I you know, it's interesting when you look at London, it looks like a rose, right? All the towns, like the lines, I mean, all the roads. Like if you look at it, it's circular, how they created it, almost like Prague, right? Prague, what they did the same thing in Prague. And the rose really symbolizes your DNA. It's like if you look at a strand of DNA from above, which they never show us, right? They always show us from the ladder, like looking at it from the side. But if you look at it, the twisted part of it from above, you would see the pentagon shape of it and how it looks like a rose. So the rose symbolizes your DNA.
So that would then obviously, with that pattern in mind, which will give you the Fibonacci code, the golden ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which you see on like the Sumerians holding in their hands that like cone shaped type pattern, which is obviously all the same. So that's the same.
Yeah,
like,
it's all the same.
Yeah, the Masonic and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's like, so for, you know, I think once we, and then they even put these symbols in the sky. Like there's a rose nebula, which happens to be in the center of the winter hexagon, right on if you take the hexagon, turn it into a cube, you know, like if you take the shape of a hexagon and you create a Y in it, it ends up being three-dimensional. Right on the confluence of that cube of the Y is the rose nebula. So it's like it's fascinating how they've created all this. It's like it's all for us to see, but they didn't show us, they didn't teach us it. You
Yeah.
have to go seek it. It's called the great work, right? So not some people want to seek it. Some people are really fascinated by it, and then other people just don't want anything to do with it. They're just like, no, it's not part of my life. Who cares, But the problem is, I kept saying this a couple of years ago. I kept saying, "Oh, something's going down. It's gonna eventually become part of your life. You can't avoid not experiencing this divide. This is the divide of souls, so you cannot not experience it. But it's fascinating. I find it really fascinating that people are locked in their homes, and still don't see this as a spiritual war.
Yes, yeah.
Like
And
this boggles my mind.
yeah, one of the images that comes to my mind is I kind of think the artist, but the famous artist did it on the top of a chapel where you've got God in the right hand reaching out with his finger, and then you've got I don't know if it's the sun or the people physical on the other, and they're reaching, and you can literally just see them touch at the fingertip. And I think that is a nice expression in the artistic way of the now time that we're being faced. We're at the point where the two touch, and like you're saying, people reject, people accept, but ultimately you're going to have to see it. You're going to have to play this game at some level at some point.
Yeah, I think it's gonna eventually, they'll realize it. But I think it's like I watched the Avengers Endgame the other day, and I hadn't watched all the other shows, but it was really fascinating because it's like a lot of people just vanished right off the time, like Earth, and then like people just left. They didn't, they weren't like nothing really happened to them. They just went to another realm. They went to another dimension, which all ties into the whole Mobius strip and the Alice universe and quantum physics and everything. And I just thought it was fascinating, and that they had all these monuments where all the people that had vanished, and everybody else was sad, that all the world wasn't the same. But the whole point of the movie was that eventually we had to merge that timeline where the souls that are ascended go to, and then we have to come back and save the souls that are kind of locked on this timeline. And I think that's really fascinating because I think right now we're going through the divide, and I think eventually, I do believe it will be physical. We will be separated from these souls, but in the end we have to come back and kind of help them, because the prophecies are that you walk the two worlds. Some of the ascended souls, like the Hopi prophecy says that, and it's like, yeah, I think this is the whole thing of it. Eventually, some people will be able to walk through the dimensions, and then this dimension is like crumbling and disastrous, and it's like a prison. It's just awful, and then the other dimension is wonderful. But you can't just leave these souls here. It's not the part. So this is going to go on for quite a few years. We're not over. This is just the beginning, you know.
I totally agree with just the beginning, and a lot of people have says to me, especially in the last couple of weeks, is like, is this the end times? And it's like, well, yes, it's always been the end times. It's always going to be the end times.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just what you're doing. It's different. And I've said that to a few people now, is your awareness of things is different, so thus your results will be different. Where if you were living in the subconscious state, you would have done nothing, and some of the people that I'm referring to, they're in their 20s, so it's a real prime time for them to be sparking and making a change for themselves.
Yeah, I think the younger ones kind of are just going along with it a bit more, but it's you can start to see it now just on general social media. People are very quiet, very calm. Nobody's like bitching too much anymore. Everybody's just kind of like, you can see everybody's in a reflective mode, and I'm kind of like, whoa. But I do think they're going to create lots of drama in the United States, and the whole thing in the United States was a bit of a setup. I knew it was going to be a ritual. Just the fact that Trump put them in the ellipse, sorry, and that means flattening the curve. Okay, that's an orbital. That's what Kepler used there was a term he used for his first law on bringing orbits from a circle to, more oval shape, and he called it flattening the curve. And so I didn't know what that term was until I started. So I realized that Trump was putting all the patriots in the ellipse. And I was like, oh, I better go research what the ellipse is. It must have something to do with elliptical, because obviously. So, and then I realized, oh my God, the whole, where they were all going, they went to the 3 points almost of the spring triangle, which goes from, you can go on historic sites of Freemasonry. They say, oh, Arcturus was the White House. That's the king of the North. So you get King Arthur. King Arthur ties to the White House. And then that's up in Boots, the star in Boots. And then the Spica star, which is the obelisk, is the tree of life. It's the harvest star. It's the tree. Okay. And then the Capitol building where they all went, this is going to be Regulus. This is called the Spring Triangle, and George Washington created Washington D.C. with these 3 places. But the fact that they were putting all these people there, making them walk from one, I was like, oh, it's not good. It's not good. He should have just kept, if it was not going to be kind of like a ritual, he would have just kept them in one spot. But the fact that he made them leave that location, go to the other location, I was like, oh, it's not good. It was like, and the fact that he called it the wild protest, when you told me that, when you told me that, I was like, oh my God, it's Odin's wild hunt is January 6th. And then I knew, oh my God. And it was so crazy that Odin showed up, right? The horned guy, he shows up with all these Odin tattoos all over his body. Like, it's hilarious. And the tree of life on his body, all tattooed. He's not a Trump supporter.
And the red, white, blue on his face, representing the 3 brothers of Noah, Shem.
Yeah.
I can't remember their names, but and what was the other one? The eclipse flattening the curve. Could it be that they're also future referencing Mercury in reference to when Mercury does something next?
Well, Mercury is Odin. He's Woden in German, which is Wednesday, and in French it's Mercredi. It's Mercury Day. So Mercury represents Wednesday, represents Odin. So, the fact that they did it all in that ritual, and I think it was even on a Wednesday. It was on a Wednesday. They did it, so it was like a total ritual. Now, it's just nuts because it was like they're setting up the pillars for the Civil War. Like the poor patriots think they're going there, to fight for their rights. But now, because this guy went into the White House, which I'm sure it was a setup guy, because he has many videos out that he did, and he's a super soldier, and he's talking about quantum physics and time travel and all Space Force tech.
Well, glad you're mentioning Space Force, because there's an interesting flood of information been coming out this last couple of weeks. And a lot of people are saying they're going to try the fake alien invasion thing very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they're saying it's Biden that's going to take office, they're saying that is the drum roll for this invasion, is the fact that the Trump administration would have been a preventator for a space invasion, which is interesting.
Well, this is what really kind of, when the day of the election, okay, I knew that it was a curse year, right? Because it's the Tippy Canoe curse, which every 20 years there's a curse on the president that they get assassinated or killed or die in office, okay? Every single president has had this happen to him, except Reagan didn't die. He just got, shot at, but he didn't die. And I think Bush as well. He didn't die, but he got shot at. So, I was kind of like, oh, they're going to shoot Trump. They're going to take Trump out, because I thought Trump was going to win. Then, now that, Trump's kind of stepping aside kind of on the surface, to kind of look like he's like, and then he's condemning all the protesters that went in. Like, so now they're arresting them. And so, like, the poor patriots, right? So then I realized that they're doing the inauguration on Wednesday, which is, they're doing it at 8:30 at night. So I went and looked at the sky and checked out the azimuthal grid, and it's on exactly where Trump was born, which is the azimuthal grid has two portals. And one of them is on the Freemason symbol, which is Norma constellation. And the other one is on almost Medusa, where Trump was born, which is the Medusa ties into the Odin symbol. It's the Triskelion.
Yeah.
Okay, the Triskelion, the original Triskelion from Welsh, from Celtic. It's the three. It's either the three triangles or the three spirals. This is called a Triskelion.
Oh, the other one is the three rabbits.
Yeah, the three rabbits, the three legs. Okay, that symbol is on Operation Warp Speed logo. It's the cube with the 3 sevens. It's like they take the cube and they do it like this. And Trump was inaugurated. He was 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days. Okay, so they've created the Operation Warp Speed to represent the Odin symbol, which really goes back to the Triskelion, which always has the Medusa head in the middle of it. Okay, and that's when Trump was born. That's where when he popped into this world, he was on his azimuthal grid was on the Medusa head and the wolf next to the Freemason symbol. Do you see? This is not one-dimensional war. This is an interdimensional war. He came into this world on the Crab Nebula, on the Horn of Taurus, okay, on the first supernova ever to be recorded. And what's crazy is on the inauguration tomorrow or Wednesday, they're right when the inauguration starts at 8:30 at night, which is really bizarre because I think usually
bizarre to do it at night anyway.
Yeah, but they're doing it to align it to that grid because that grid is now on the sacrificial lamb. It's like a goat, and it's right beside Medusa's head. And the other horn of Taurus is called the devil. Okay, and it's in the circle of the grid. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do a sacrifice. And the day of the election, I went like an hour after they said like Biden looked like he was going to win. I went and checked out the Tippecanoe curse, and his name was already there that he was going to be killed.
So it's Biden that's going to be killed.
Yeah, and that is the perfect way for them to take the Patriots' guns. And that's how they're going to create the Civil War.
Yeah, they're already after their body armor.
Exactly, and the lingo in the mainstream media right now is all about the Patriots were violent and they wanted to kill somebody when they went into the Capitol. I saw them going in, okay, because I had a friend that was in there, like on Discord friend. I don't know the person, but and he had his iPad and he was filming it, and the police were opening the gates for them to go in. Okay, so this was a total setup. Yeah. They set them up. Yeah. They set them up, and so then all they have to do is take Biden out. Then we get the female president, which represents the moon pillar,
which would fulfill the Simpsons prophecy.
Yep, exactly. And then of course it's a black woman. Well, she's not really black, they say, but she represents the moon. Okay. And then I don't know eventually if they will like take Trump out as well, like just to kind of make it go worse, but the point is once Biden goes down, they're going to totally say we have to take people's guns now. It's like they're setting it all up. It's all perfect, So then soon as they say they're going to come take the Patriots' guns, they've got the Patriots so revved up. They're not going to stand for it.
So if the vice president takes Biden's place and then Nancy Pelosi becomes vice president, oh my God, oh my days,
it'll be Kamala Harris, wouldn't it?
I thought it was
yeah, she'll be president, but then. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Speaker of the House will become Vice President, which is Nancy Pelosi.
Yep. They will go insane. They will go insane. I swear to God. It'll just be the tipping point for them. They won't be able to handle it. So I thought at first it was going to be Trump going down, because I thought, that he was going to maybe win and then they would take him out and that would cause all the patriots to be upset. I knew they were going to do a sacrifice somewhere. But the fact that the sky is all aligning to this sacrifice, like the stars mean sacrifice. It means the devil taking them, so it's like, it's like if nothing happens, I'll be shocked. Like I knew something was going to happen with George Floyd because it was all around the Pleiades. There's this asteroid called Nanomia, which is the Justice. She's the Lady Justice. So I knew something was going to happen with Justice in May. And of course, then it was the George Floyd thing. Now, the George Floyd get off my neck is the way they use Sikh Center Tyrannus, which was all about the fall of Rome when Julius Caesar died, and then the same phrase was used when Lincoln got shot. So I thought they were going to shoot Trump because they keep referencing Trump to Lincoln, and I'm like, okay, they're just they're creating the Civil War again with this phrase, because this phrase ties to 3.5 years of Civil War. This phase ties in with the Civil War, and then it ties into Julius Caesar, the fall of Rome. And Washington, D.C. used to be called Rome. It was originally called Rome. Okay, so they're just creating, that's what I'm saying. It's just, they re-loop history. They re-loop it. It's the same history. And it's just, we're a bunch of souls. We've all lived through those times. So we're already on pillars because we've experienced it, and our DNA has memory. So, we've all lived through those timelines. So it's triggering people like crazy. So, this is why I'm kind of pins and needles what's going to happen with the inauguration. I just, if nothing happens, I'll be shocked. I'll be absolutely shocked. I'll be totally shocked. They've got all the military out in Washington right now. There's, making it look like the Patriots are going to do something bad, So it's like so the poor Patriots going to this rally, and I was begging them not to go. I said, "Don't go. It's not good. Oh, we'll just make it peaceful. We have to stand. We have to make our stand and just show peace in numbers." I said, "It's not going to be peaceful. Something's going to happen. It's Odin's wild protest." It's like. They didn't listen. They didn't want to listen.
Right from the start, wild protest. It's like, why is the word wild in with protest?
Exactly.
It was civil with Civil War.
Yeah, it's just weird. It's just that, but when people are on the pillars, it doesn't matter what you say anymore. They're not thinking logically anymore. It's just all about emotion and fighting and wanting to win. It's really about the ego, I guess. That's what it all comes down to. They don't want to look stupid.
Is it, what's the word? Self-dichotomy, greed dichotomy? Self-greed dichotomy, is it?
Yeah, it's like, I think it's all to do, the whole part of spiritual evolution in your own self, or doing the great work, is to let go of your ego and just believe that it's all divine. And then once you see that it's all divine, you let go of the control of being able to fix it, because you can't fix this realm. This realm is a bipolar realm. You cannot fix this realm. This is the only way you can fix it, is to let go of it. And then by letting go of it, we will probably jump to another realm that looks like this realm, but it's not like this realm. And then we come back and fix the people that needed to live through that pain. This is all prophecy. It's all in the Bible. It's like, but I think people don't want to believe that it could possibly be Bible time. Well, that's a bit brighter too. So it's like, this is the whole thing. It's really a spiritual war. It's not about, we can't, there's not enough souls that will fight the establishment. It's impossible. They want you fighting. They want you fighting.
People don't. There's a lot of people like that. They don't know what to believe because there's a lot of disinformation as well as the right information.
But
we're in an age of like post-conspiracy, post-secret age where none of that really matters anymore. It doesn't matter if they tell you the truth because not a lot of people know what the objective truth is.
But I think the whole part of spirituality is no, go. No, it's okay.
I was just going to say, I think that's why
the whole part of spirituality. The whole part of spirituality is you find your truth through God. It's not going to church. It's knowing. You get this knowing because you get downloads. You get the truth presented to you, and so you're not looking for truth. The truth comes to you. It's a different way of searching for truth. It's like you just and the more you trust in that is the truth. It's your higher self or whatever, but it's so weird because people go, oh, you might be getting downloads from a demon, and I'm like, talking about, that, like I don't even resonate with demon. What do you mean? It's like, it's just like I don't believe in that. I just believe that there's a divinity, this divine that you have to connect to, and then you're shown the truth. Nobody's telling you the truth. Like don't even listen to me. Go find the truth. But you can go research what I'm telling you. But you need to find. Everybody needs to find their truth. It's not listening to us that people are going to find truth. It's just it can open a few little parts in your brain to go do your own work, but it's not. You shouldn't be following anybody.
No, it's like was it Jacob's well? You come there for water, but obviously you can't keep coming there. You've got to, find your own source.
Yeah, I guess it's all in prophecy that the truth is within you. It's not something you have to go find. It's like it's just you have to be in a state of kind of bliss and not in fear and not mad. Okay, but the problem is time you listen to the media or they're just trying to keep you in this lower frequency. So when you're in this lower frequency, you can't connect to the truth. It's impossible. And then you got to watch, like anybody you listen to, if they're making you nervous or stressed out, don't listen to them. Just, it's not good. It's not good because it's like, it's not about seeing it as nefarious. It's just a game. That's the way I see it. It's just a game. And wherever you resonate is where you're going to end up in the game. The whole goal is to kind of win the game. Is to win the game so you don't have to keep repeating this game. So you can become, next time we do it, you're the one of the awakened souls that's creating the illusion for all this other souls. And then you realize that death is just part of it. It's like there's no such thing as death, right? It's just you get out of one car, go in another. This is what John Lennon said, right? There's no such thing as death. There's no point in even fearing your own death. It's like there's no point. It's like it's just all stupid, really. It's just because it's like you don't die, you just come back and you come into this world and but the point is to ascend, or is then you come back as kings and priests. So then you know all the information. So you're not living like you have no clue what's going on. You know the game, and that's why these people are all like wealthy and they know the game. They know how the game works. They're functioning from a different language, but you can't see that as nefarious because that's the end result. And you're creating this illusion to help other souls awaken. You're not creating the illusion to hurt them. You're creating the illusion to make them find their own truth. And this is what it's about. They have to find God, the divinity of it all. But it's like it's very complex. But in the end, just be happy.
Yeah.
If you're happy, you're going to find it. It's really that.
Well, when I
see, like,
growing up, I never denounced God. I asked my grandfather what I was, and my grandfather looked at me and was like, "What do you mean?" And I said to him, "Am I a Christian?" And he just said, "Look, that's for something for you to decide when you're old enough to make your own decisions. I'm not gonna like brainwash you with any of that. That's something you gotta figure out."
yeah.
So yeah, it's and I'm losing track of what I was going to say then.
Well,
When I went on my I went on my journey from what I said earlier from my grandfather when I had that conversation about King Arthur, and I went on that journey of learning, and I discovered that, oh wow, this God is real. There's just so much evidence pointing towards it. It's unreal. It's hard. You can't even. It's hard to deny it. You can't. And
no.
once I decided, then I was just like, oh wow, I become what I would call a born again Christian in my own way. I don't go to church, and and I was praying and going into deep thought and stuff, and I had a few words come to me that I don't know where they came from. I'm not 100% sure what they mean, and I had a very I would say colourful dream that I was shown something, but then it was taken away from me. So, and it was quite, like, that also helped me on my journey as well.
Yeah, I think it's not about being religious. I'm not religious. I do read the scripture because I know it's all coded, and I read it through an esoteric point of view, and the esoteric knowledge is in the Bible. And the sad part about it is the poor people that are in institutional religion, they're terrified of looking at the sky, and it's like I can't get my head around that. I'm like, the heaven is where you think your God lives, but you won't look at the sky. So I can't even get my head around this. This is like, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm just like, what are you talking about?
It's like an
But they
oxymoron.
see it all as
It makes you laugh. It's some of it,
doesn't.
and it's like the
Well, it's
Catholics
just
here.
bizarre.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, it's, it is crazy. There's no logic to it. And then the Mazzaroth is in the Bible. The zodiac is in the Bible. I mean, you tell them that they just no, no, no. It's like, and you're like, okay, well, if you think I'm a demon, okay, well, okay, I'm a demon. It's like, if you want to think I'm a demon, then go ahead, think I'm a demon, and I can't help you. I guess it's like your beliefs are strong. Like it's where are they coming from? So the thing is, yeah, I think your God is your own personal God that you connect with. It's not an institutional God,
Yeah,
and that's the way. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like,
I
but
mean,
he's there. It's things there. Something speaks to us.
yeah. I mean, I say I'm a born again Christian. I don't do everything nowhere near what people, what I would entail doing. I hold all my own views, my own beliefs, and my knowing and what have you.
Mhm.
And I've had some interesting conversations with people on like YouTube, where they'll denounce religion completely and say science, but then I'll question them and say, well, what do you think science is looking for? They're looking for
Mhm.
that beginning. They're looking for that all, where does all this creation come from? So
Yeah, it's
by using science to prove religion don't exist, that doesn't quite work either, because it just backfires, because that's
no.
generally what they're looking for. That's
Yeah,
what
well, they do that at CERN, right? They're looking for what's it called, the Higgs, whatever. It's like
well,
they're trying to find the particle, God particle, right?
well, the Higgs boson part, that when they done the CERN, when they collided it, they were expecting to see chaos. When the atoms hit each other and exploded, they were expecting to see complete chaos. But when they viewed it, it was actually perfect order, and that's when they realized, hang on a minute, that should not have really have happened. So that made them even realize even more that there is, whatever, however you want to call it, a God, a divine, an energy, or but that made them step back and think, "Oh, hang on, this is why they do a lot of their own. They do a lot of their own rituals at CERN, don't they?"
Yeah, it's like they believe in God. Come on, all the scientists, they all esoteric knowledge is all about God. It's a religious thing. So it's like, and the thing is, the whole periodic table is all esoteric. You can go on the Royal Society. That's what people don't know about science. It's like you go on the Royal Society periodic table, you click on an element, it comes up an esoteric symbol. So you telling me that scientists don't believe in esoteric spirituality if it's on their periodic table in their most famous, periodic table, Royal Society?
And it's the same with what we were saying. I think it was the last episode with the psychics, and England doesn't admit its history with the occults and the psychic stuff, but yet there is hundreds of years documented events. And then the tap on something else that was jumping in my head, CERN, then with the Hadron Collider, they did their own tarot deck of cards. I think it was 2016. Yes. Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's just like, but people that you can tell, you can show, you could lay out all this information in front of somebody. If they don't want to know their truth or the truth, they will just reject it. They'll find it's really fascinating to see how a mind, how somebody works in their mind, because you're like, I can show them this, and then they're just no, and they just won't think about it. They don't want to think about it. It's like, and so you can't force somebody to awaken. It's like, I've tried. It doesn't work. It actually makes it worse. It's like, it's like, and so, how many awakened souls are on the planet? Like, okay, it's definitely not half.
No.
We're nowhere near half. Are we quarter? I don't even know if we're quarter, So it's
I don't even think we're close to 1%.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't. It's just I do get connect with a lot of people, from my channel. So I think I think there's more than there really is, but I don't. You don't know, right? But the point is, right now the church is the media. It's a new church. Right? And it's Andromeda. It's right, Andromeda. She's tied to a rock, and she's supposed to be Statue of Liberty, which she had the chains on her arms, but eventually they put her on her feet. But that's Andromeda that Perseus with the Medusa head comes and saves, kills the beast. This is all they're all just mimicking that, but it's Andromeda, media. So she's and she's chained. So if you're attached to the media, you're chained. So
and then
it's just
there's some
all in the sky.
Words coming out of troops getting ready in Iran. I think it's Israel News Live. They've been putting out a few reports. There's been a lot of build up for something that's unfolding over there. I don't know if that's something that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, we need. Yes, go ahead.
There was a radio transmission or something picked up saying that they're going to strike back for killing their leader, that general guy that was killed. They're going to strike back for his murder, basically. So he's become a martyr.
Yeah,
I forgot.
They need the prophecy. Well, it's part of prophecy.
Yeah.
It's prophecy, right, in the Bible, that there has to be a war in the Middle East. Whether it's one day or whatever, they have to announce the Middle East war. So this is what we have to watch. Like I was like, I really did think it was all tied into Odin with Christmas, and so I was really like, okay, it's all going down with the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, And then when I went back in history just recently, the Saturn Jupiter conjunctions with, I think it was with Mars conjuncting with it, it caused the Black Plague. They state this, right? So the Saturn Jupiter conjunction all ties into the virus, so the plague, and Trump mentioned the corona as the plague in his Alamo speech a couple of days ago. So I was like, okay, they're calling it the plague. There we go. Okay, so then then that's all pathetic. And then, so then I was kind of like, okay, the last day of Christmas is really February 2nd. It's really it's called Candlemas Day, and this ties into the light. It's the purification through light. It's the Epiphany. It's all tying into the Epiphany. It's 42 days, or they say 40 days from Christmas, but it's actually 42 days from Sigillaria Day, the last day of Saturnalia, which was also to do with candles and light, okay, and the tree of life and the tree, so that was interesting. I was like, okay, it goes to February 2nd. Well, guess what that all ties into? Groundhog Day. Okay, and do you know that Groundhog Day is supposed to be considered the most spiritual movie of our time? And he was actually there for 33 years, living the
Wow.
same thing. Okay, and so then they had created like a Broadway show, and the Inner Circle went to the Broadway show, and the Inner Circle are these 15 men that dress up with top hats that do the whole Groundhog show, day in Pennsylvania. And then what's crazy is I was listening to them just talking about Groundhog Day, and they have like hors d'oeuvres or whatever the day before, and they have a little party, and you can go meet the groundhog, and then they give him an elixir every year, okay? And that makes the groundhog live for 7 more years. And they've calculated it that this groundhog is 130 years old. He's never died. Okay, it's the same groundhog, they're saying. So he's an immortal groundhog. Okay.
Well, I like the interesting thing as well. If you look at like ancient peoples, it was a 9-day week. We used to have 9-day weeks. So if we've deducted days off, then really we're not actually in the year we're meant to be. We're meant to be a few years back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're probably in 2012 right now, right?
Yeah.
Or so yeah, so this whole thing. So then I was like, okay, maybe it's Groundhog Day that like something big's gonna happen, right? But then I was like, okay, wait a second. So then I went 80. I think it was 88 days further forward, and it brings you to the Baron Trump's birthday. Now, the interesting thing with Baron Trump's birthday is why I thought the winter solstice was going to be so important, because the moon was on the tail of the whale. And Baron Trump was born on the moon, on the tail of the whale, on Citus, okay, on March 20th, which is really the spring equinox. Very, very important time in paganism. The spring equinox is like, it's supposed to be the new year. But so then I thought, oh, maybe that's when they're going to kind of like transfer Osiris into Horus, because there has to be that ritual will most likely happen. Okay. Because Trump is like Osiris. Like when Trump was inaugurated, they timed it all. He was in the Beast car, right? Like it was called the Beast. And they stopped and they waited for the Sirius star to come at a certain part, and then they waited, and then they kept going, and so they waited for Sirius to just come on the horizon, on the helical horizon. It was a big ritual. Okay, so Washington D.C. is totally ritual, right? So they created all that. So Trump is kind of like Osiris or Enki or Odin, whatever you want to call him, right? He's like he's just, it's the same character. Okay, it's Mercury. Okay, so then I was like, oh, maybe. So then there's this weird thing, because then on Baron Trump's birthday, the moon is actually at the same place where Trump was born on Baron Trump's birthday. So there's like some kind of like, maybe they're going to do something then. And then I'm like, well, that's important, right? So then, and then it's also 322. You get the 322s all in there. And then I had this big revelation last night that I was like, oh my God, 88 days from then, which 88 is as Trump's gematria. It's also the orbit of Mercury. I was like, 88 days from then brings it to May Day. Okay. And this all ties into the maypole, and it ties into the MAGA mother. It's the real celebration of the harvest mother, like Cassiopeia, the Maga mother, who's Cabela. This is ancient Roman, festivals. And this is all to do with the month of May. And then, this is crazy. Okay. Then I was like, okay, well, May is when they did the George Floyd thing. It's all to do with the Pleiades, right? Everything's about the Pleiades. I had no idea. I always thought the Golden Gate was on the golden, part of the Milky Way, on the tip of Sagittarius, right? When the sun is where the sun is on the winter solstice. I always thought that was the Golden Gate, because that's, if you Google Golden Gate, you'll eventually find that's what people think it is. I learned last night that the real Golden Gate of the elliptical is in Taurus, right beside the Pleiades. It was considered the original heliacal rising of the vernal spring equinox back in 4,500 BC. Taurus was, and I was like, Jesus, that's when they're going to do it. That's when it, and guess what? 13 days after May 1st, it's called Ascension Day.
You're making me think of the guy Wayne Herschel and his warp thing for the Taurus. You remember he called the Taurus the Golden Gate. I'm sure he did, or the Golden something.
But well, it's with gold. It's supposed to be the Golden Bull, but so really, what it is I don't know if you know, like the Pleiades is on the shoulder of Taurus, and then there's this line that goes over to the Hades. There's a little cluster of stars called the Hades, and they're the half sisters of the Pleiades. Okay, in mythology, and Atlas is the father. Okay, so when the Atlas comet came through last May, that's when they did the George Floyd thing. So I knew, and then Eunomia was there as well, the queen, the Lady of Justice. Okay, so I was like, okay, so now I realize that the beginning of the horns of Taurus, where the Hades are, is called the golden. This is part of the golden elliptical. So the beginning of the Y is a bit of like on the golden. It's kind of between them and Pleiades, but that would be the golden part. Then the middle of the horns is called the Silver Gate. It's the gate of Isis. Well, she's the queen, right? Isis is the queen. We all know in Egyptian mythology, she's the queen. And then Trump is born on the horn. So, it's like, there it is. It's all there. And so I was like, oh my God, this is like, my mind was going like this last night, because this is a huge piece to the puzzle. Because on May 24th, it all ties into the gates in the sky. May 24th is when they decided to move May Day, because it was always celebrated on May 1st. They decided to put it on May 24th for Queen Victoria's birthday. Okay. And Queen Victoria, she had a son or a grandson, I think it was her son, named Leopold. Okay. And he was the one that fell in love with Alice. And that Alice is the original Alice. That's who Alice in Wonderland is all about, this little girl. And the guy that wrote Alice in Wonderland, he had feelings for her, and she was only 10. Okay, so the family eventually like disconnected, because I guess, maybe he did something to her or whatever. So then Leopold came over to Canada, and there's a Leopold Island, which is called, it's like an island, like a bird sanctuary island up in Inuvik. Okay, and then they created they created the pentagram right across North America, and they had the Golden Gate at San Francisco. Then they have the Silver Gate, which is at St. Louis, where the two eclipses go across, 2017, 2024. And then they have Washington. It's all built on the same line. But exactly straight up from the Golden Gate in San Francisco is the Lions Gate. And Queen Victoria came over to watch that bridge, the Lions Gate Bridge in Vancouver. She christened it. Okay. So it all ties, and then BC is like in Vancouver, there's a city called Victoria, and it was named after her. Okay, so, and they would celebrate May Day on May 1st, but then they switched it to May 24th. But May 24th is when the sun is on that golden gate in Taurus.
And then another thought is jumping in my head, mentioning Victoria. You've got all this lockdown stuff in Australia, and it's mostly been targeted on the, I think they call it state of Victoria or whatever of Victoria.
There you go. It's the queen. It's the mother. It's Isis. She's the one that does the harvest. She's like, so that's why in Virgo you have the ascended star up by her hair, and then you have the Spica star, which is the harvest star. So the queen of the sky, which would be in constellations, it would be Virgo or Cassiopeia, and she's Andromeda's mother. Okay, and then there's the father, there's the king and the queen up in the heavens, and Andromeda, which would be the Statue of Liberty, that's their daughter, and she's chained. Okay, but the queen is who we need to be paying attention to, not the Queen of England, but this queen, because she's the MAGA, she's the MAGA mother. Okay, so. And she's originally called Capella for Kabbalah, and she's also known as Sibylla. Sibylla. So her name changes all through cultures, but she's always the same. It's all, represents the harvest. She's like they say agriculture, yeah, because we're the crop.
Could I just add a couple points of what you said? Yeah. Prince William. He was born on the solstice.
Yeah, on the was he? Prince William?
Prince William's born. He was purposely born on that day. That's part of what Diana came out and said. She was forcibly taken to Stonehenge, and they did this chanting ceremony at a certain time at night and got her into giving birth to William on that day, for the solstice, because he need for whatever their reasons. Yeah. So that.
Yeah, I don't know if he was born on the solstice, but she was impregnated on an eclipse. I did the video on it. I figured out the birthday, and I went back, and it always has to do with they always want the black moon. That's when an eclipse happens with the moon and the sun. It's always a black moon.
I'm sure that was on his birthday. If I'm so when he said eclipse.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was when he was born.
I need to Google when he was born.
Yeah.
Because I know she was impregnated on an eclipse, which is really, really, really important. I did a video on it, and I know he's like.
I think he was also born on one as well at the time, or blood moon or something like that.
Yeah.
Another thing is, aren't the royals part of a, like, is it St. Paul's or something, where they wear these clothes, like black clothes, and they've got like a big star, silver star with a red cross in. Ain't they part of some? Yeah, because you mentioned about the star. And,
the star is like, the real star that they all worship is Venus, and Venus is the mother planet. She's the only feminine planet in the sky. Okay, and she in planets, Venus is the MAGA mother. Okay, and Taurus, where the sun's going to be in this golden gate next to the Pleiades, is ruled by Venus, and Venus is going to be in the horns this May, between the two horns of Taurus. Enki, who is the Anunnaki god who wants us to ascend, is going to be in conjunction where Trump is born. Mercury will be there as well, which is Trump, and the moon. All between these two horns. And if you don't think something's going to happen with all that, you're nuts, because the when they created Mother's Day, okay, this is really weird, okay? Well, Mother's Day was originally called the Mothering Day. It goes back to Roman times. It's really, really old. But they try to pretend that doesn't exist, right? So then they say, oh, we're going to create Mother's Day, in the 19th century. And so what happened was in 1941, there was this massive conjunction, almost similar to this year, what's going to happen in Taurus, but even bigger. But I think Jupiter was there, and I don't know if Saturn was there too, but there was a lot of planets all in conjunction, all in Taurus, all around. And then 33 years prior was the first Mother's Day on the exact same day. So they read the sky in the future, took the 33 days, and decided to put Mother's Day in 1908. And it's a bunch of bull crap, because they have 3 different women that they say created Mother's Day. One of them is all tied into the Civil War with Lincoln, and she was helping free prisoners. And this all ties into John Brown, which all ties back into the assassination of Lincoln. Okay, he was the first terrorist to get killed in the United States, and he was a white man trying to free slaves. And that's all ties into George Floyd. It all ties in. It's all repetitive. So this is the whole Mother's Day thing, I think, is really what they're tying it all into. And Ascension Day is also known as Purification Day. It's May 13th, but then Queen Victoria's Day is 11 days later. The pillars, and that's where all the planets are, like, they're all perfect, and on Queen Victoria Day. I was thinking, oh, maybe it's going to do it on Ascension Day, but then I was like, no, I better really look at the planets. And then the moon, like I think on Ascension Day, the moon is in there. Yeah, the moon is in the horns. But on Queen Victoria Day, on May 24th, the moon is on the location where the sun is on Halloween. Now, we all know what Halloween is. That's this is a very ancient pagan holiday that is actually worshiping Ascension. It's not the Day of the Dead. It's the day of the ascended souls. And this is a very famous star that's in Libra, which is also ruled by Venus. Okay? So, we've got Venus everywhere, it's always about Venus. Well, yeah. Venus is the morning star and the evening star. So she's Lucifer, and she's also, like, she's the light bringer.
I had a quick look at his date of birth. He was born on the 21st of June, 1983.
21st of June. Yeah, so it's the solstice, yeah.
Yeah, and there was there was a solar eclipse that happened then, I think maybe on the 25th, a couple of days after him being born. And another thing, when you mentioned about this Golden Gate, didn't they parade some type of I'm not sure, Islamic gate around the States? Didn't like this old religious gate get taken around America?
I don't know about that, but I know the Day of Ascension, the May 13th, is an Islamic holiday. It's called EDF or something, and it has to do with worshiping their God and everything. It's in my calendar. I didn't even know anything about it. I just opened up my calendar, and they have the Muslim holiday in there now. So I was like, oh, okay. So I looked at that. And then when I was looking at that, I saw that it's also Ascension Day. But it would be perfect. It would be perfect to have 11 days later. It's just perfect in the sky all in May. So it would make sense, because they want to get as many people vaccinated as possible. So they need the time to create the vaccination and the push, and then you can't go on a plane unless you're vaccinated. You can't go in. So they're going to go on and on. And the more people that get vaccinated, they can't ascend. You're going to be locked in this negative timeline, I do believe, because ascension is activating your DNA. You have to be able to swap the magnetics in your DNA and your protein. It's called the Meissner effect. It's a quantum physics superconductor. And this is all to do with DNA and your protein, which is on the surface of your fingertips. It's called the Meissner effect, that you have protein on your fingertips. They don't even understand why. And I'm pretty sure it has to do with ascension. It's really, the protein ends up stacking like a stonemason. And it stacks, and it creates the pearl, like exactly the same as a mother of pearl would do. So this is why they say you become shiny. You become the shining ones when you ascend. You become the light, because you become luminescent. And if you watch any movies these days, they always drop about the pearl, and also the corona borealis crown. The main star is a pearl. Okay, and so they're showing you there. Okay, so it's always the pearls, the pearl, the pearl, the pearl. So it's like, yeah, this is what ascension is. So it's like, so it's physical. So the vaccine prevents it. Okay, so the problem is when you speak to a patriot about this, they don't want it, because why would Trump be pushing a vaccine if he wants us to be free? Yeah, like, so when he started doing that, this is when I started to go, okay, this isn't going to free us. He's just separating souls. He's showing us how to be free. I learned a lot from listening to Trump. He's dropping esoteric knowledge all the time. He's telling you how to win. He's telling you how to win. He's telling you got to go behind the wall. You got to be behind that wall. That wall is the well, it's kind of like they show this in the movie the Christmas Chronicles. It's the Borealis Wall. You have to go at the North Pole. You have to go with the Elvins. It's always the Elven people. This is where you want to be free. It sounds crazy. I know it sounds nuts, but if you go back in history, it's always to do with the Tuat Danann. Okay, you should know that. This is all to do with the Celtic, and these people are the tribe of Dan. They're the tribe of DNA. Dan. That's why they're not in the Bible. They're the invisible people. They disappear. They become the Cheshire cat.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
have you heard do you know the word Cymru?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
the blackened ones. The blackened ones. You
Yeah.
burn. You become the phoenix.
Yeah. Well, they change. Well, the Wales and Cymru are two different words. You see, Wales means foreigner, stranger, and then Cymru is countryman or fellow countryman.
Yeah.
And it was the C was replaced the KH. They just replaced the name. Yeah.
I think it was a big psyop because I think the Welsh language, what I learned that it actually decodes the Egyptian cuneiforms, right? So it has like a frequency in it that heals the body. And then the blackened ones are the ones that ascend. You can be either the light, or they also say you're the blackened ones because you burned out of this reality. You flew out, you became the phoenix flying out of the ashes. So it's like there's a bit, it's a bit of a trick in there. You either become, the illuminescent, or you become black, and it's the same. It's just a bit of a trick how they use it in esoteric lingo. But you want to be the blackened ones because it means you've burnt like a phoenix, and you flew out. But it's sad what they, whales. Okay, the word whale. Okay, it's walleye.
Yeah.
It ties to Situs, the beast in the sky, and it actually ties to the Mobius. It's kind of it is good and bad, I guess you could say. The Mobius is the Moby Dick, but there's also a condition that you can get with your eye called the Mobius syndrome, and it's known as walleye. And it's really a whale eye. They call it this in horses too that have a blue eye. It's called the whale eye, a walleye. But so it's like, it's kind of funny, but it's all tying into the Mobius strip. The Mobius strip is it's like a piece of paper. Like, just take a piece of paper and twist it and then loop it together again. It's actually the recycling symbol, and this is how you jump timelines. You just kind of, and it's all to do with the Alice universe. This is quantum physics.
Well, that's actually what how Bach, the composer, done his music.
Oh.
So the music, so the music would go backward, forward, and around in time.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's to do with what's the word? God, I'm hopeless sometimes. To do with the array of like the spectrum for music. like the
Mhm.
ancient. There's a word for it. I can't remember.
Are you speaking about octave?
No, it's. Oh, it might come to me in a minute. I forgot it. It's
What's the guy's name that wrote it?
Bach.
Oh,
B-O.
Bach. Okay. So
Yeah,
yeah,
B-O.
I know Bach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I always
that's how he done a lot of his early stuff.
Oh, cool. I used to play the piano, and I loved playing Bach when I was a kid. It was
Well,
my favorite.
there was a gentleman I was listening to, was speaking about how they used his music in a church on a certain day when all the planets lined up, and they sat in the right position in the church to get the power and the frequency of the music along
Yeah.
with the alignment. And they said it was like another world. You know, they were taken off into another place. They said it was
Yeah.
amazing.
I bet. These cathedrals are all built on these ley lines, right? And these aquifer ley lines. And then I saw somebody go into the cathedrals and create the sound in there, like use the acoustics, and then they took it back and chopped the sound to make a cymatic, and that the shape of the cymatic is what the stained glass windows are.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool. I love that.
Isn't that it that's but, it's like magic, right? In a way, it's like divine magic, because it's to do with sound. So the Welsh language, it's like, you know, I think there was Welsh Indians. The Welsh came over to North America way before Columbus, is my understanding, and there's even a
Nine,
town in
yeah,
Ontario called Haddock, and
yeah. I'm quite
uh,
big on my history as well with that. There's a Prince Maddock, yeah, about 900 years before. Yeah,
mhm. It's amazing. And then the Mandan Indians, but it's so funny they call them the Mandan. It's like, well, it's the tribe of Dan. It's again the tribe of Dan again. It's always the Dan because it's the DNA. And then what did they do? They created them. They knew that they were speaking Welsh, so then they gave them chickenpox and they all died. It's like yeah, they didn't want the Welsh language anywhere. It's been genocide.
yeah.
So it's like I love listening to it because my heritage is Welsh, and so I just listen to people singing it, and I just like, wow, I wish I could speak Welsh. It's just so beautiful. It is. It's
It's a shame we don't use our original alphabet.
I
The
don't even know what it looks like.
is if you look up Bardic and Colburn,
Okay.
and you'll find the alphabet. There is actually a book which has been made so you can use the Welsh language with the hieroglyphics and translate into English. It's called Cymroglyphics.
Oh, cool.
So you can get. I think it's on Amazon. I think about £20.
Wow. And I'm sure some of the symbols, like, oh my God. It's like, yeah, it must be fascinating to look at those. It's like the symbols are amazing, right? That's why I just stare at symbols and meditate on them and try to learn what they were from. But anyhow, so the whole thing with this Triskelon, this three-legged spinning thing that they have at the Isle of Man, this symbol, I believe, is for time travel. Okay. I really do believe that that's like representing the way out of here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's 0 point energy. Yeah, it represents 0 point energy.
Yeah, and it's just funny that it's on the cube that Trump used for the warp speed operation for COVID, and that it's on a cube, so it's called the cube is called the Antakarana cube, and this is an ancient, I think, Hindu cube. But if you say it fast, it's anti-corona, anti-corona. Okay, so and then he has the corona thing in the center of it, but it's really an anti-corona cube, which helps to heal and it helps to heal diseases, and so he used that. But I think it's fascinating that it's a cube because it's a tesseract, right? So you get the cube within the cube, and it goes in and out. It's basically a wormhole. That's what you see this in the Oprah Winfrey Tesseract movie. That's how they're doing time travel. Is they're going into the Tesseract. So the fact that he has the symbols of the, the Triskelin on the cube, on this cube that heals, makes me realize that he's trying to teach us how to get out of here. He's not trying to lock us in. And he has to push the vaccine for the other souls, but he wasn't mandating the vaccine, but Biden will, or Kamala will. They will mandate it. So it's like, this isn't good, it's like, but so, yeah, it's just fascinating. I just think it's all about us jumping timelines, and eventually that's what it's going to be all about. But, it's just, but you can't do it when you're not in bliss. So they're going to stress the crap out of us, try to pull as many people out of the middle path as they can, right? Which is unfortunate, but it's like, you have to have the warrior light in you. No, I refuse to be unhappy. Party on. It's like, party on. I'm made for this, man. It's like, we came here for this. That's what I keep saying. Christ almighty, I knew there was a reason for life. I didn't know it was all about this. Oh my God, crazy times.
I think that's what the world is needing, to be honest, is just to ignite their own party and lift their chin out of the demise,
Yeah, but it's just so, if you listen to the news, you're going to get sucked in. I never turn it on. I won't listen to it. It's just insanity. It's like trying to find sanity in an insane world. We're basically in Alice in Wonderland, and the funny part about it is, the Cheshire cat, this is all to do with the Cheshire charge that I was talking about, how you have to like swap your DNA and your protein. Your protein and your DNA have to swap part of, the left positive, negative. And so this is called the Cheshire charge, and the Cheshire moon is the winter moon that rises up when it's a crescent. It looks like a smile, and that's called the Cheshire moon, and that's why they called the cat the Cheshire cat. And if you notice, he's very wise, and he says, my reality is not the same as your reality. And he just laughs all the time, and he disappears, and then he comes back and he disappears. And I'm like, I want to be the Cheshire cat. It's like, I don't want to be Alice, man. It's like, I'm not into being Alice anymore. This is a mad freaking wonderland we're in. And everybody's mad here. Everybody's mad.
That's the moon I've got this evening here is the tidy
Cheshire moon?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's beautiful. Yeah. So this is the whole thing about it, is right. Just smile. You want to be the smiling moon. You don't want to be the moon that's up this way. This is the sickle that comes and chops you down, the tares and the wheat. So yeah, so you don't want that moon. You want to be the smiling moon. So it's like, just keep smiling, and it's just funny. It's just hilarious, actually, when you see it all playing out now. But it's getting intense here. Like, what with this inauguration coming up, I don't know. It's like, if something goes down, it's going to be really. But I think
the other thing that was in my mind when we were talking about MAGA, that MAGA for the Church of, I don't think it's called Church of Satan. I think it's the satanicchurch.com, the website. Their ranks, one of them is called MAGA.
Okay, yeah, it's the eightfold. But this whole thing all goes back to the Lincoln battle through the Welsh kings with the Plantagenet kings. I had no friggin' idea. I just finished watching a BBC historical video about the Plantagenet kings, and that they were all French. I had no idea. I didn't know that they were French, and they didn't speak English for hundreds of years after, and they came over and started taking over all of England. Like, I had no idea about that. I knew about William the Conqueror and everything, but I didn't know that this was kind of like a battle between the French lands and the English lands. And then, the barons all stood up against these French kings, and they created this Magna Charter, which was why Trump created the MAGA movement, was all to do with this charter that will, kind of help build the Constitution of the United States, and then all the founding fathers, most of them were Welsh, like, that's crazy that they were all Welsh. So they wanted to have their freedoms, but then I didn't know that it was all to do with, so the Lincoln, it goes back to the Welsh word that's Len, I think. It means pond. So it's like the nectar of the gods. This is always beside the obelisk. That's why in Washington they have the reflecting pool. It's always the tree with the nectar. And they did this in they do this March every year in Pakistan. It's called the Kumbh festival. And the Kumbh is really like it's the nectar. And they had an obelisk there. They always had an obelisk there. And I was like, okay. And then I was reading about Saturn last night, or I think it's Saturn or Jupiter. One of them is called Kumbh in ancient times. So it's always about Saturn and Jupiter. It's like Jupiter is the god of this realm. Saturn is the god of the golden age. So it's like there's a battle.
Magna Carta, that was created in the year 1225. And this whole COVID thing, there's been a lot of discussion about the Magna Carta and how it would serve. And even in Australia, they used the Magna Carta to serve their government. And I think it was April, they actually disavowed the whole Australian government. So since April, such and such date, through the Magna Carta, there is no government in control. But of course, the news doesn't say anything of that. And the military and barons have been in charge of Australia since then. And you can actually go onto the internet and watch their monthly broadcast on how they're controlling Australia.
I had no idea. Wow, that's crazy.
The other one that's interesting is Magna Carta, wait for this one, it stemmed from the Arbroath Declaration, which will be celebrating 701 year or 702 years this year. And that was just celebrated recently. And then Magna Carta, it was celebrated somewhere in England, and there was royal attendance to the celebration, even all the archbishops and bishops. And it was one of the biggest celebrations for the Magna Carta in the UK in so many hundred years. This was all, I think that one was 2017 or 19.
Yeah, so they're trying, it's like trying to teach people that we have the rights to be free. But like, I think that's what people, eventually any of the souls that are left here, or if we're here, we have to fight for this eventually. We have to help the souls that are here. Whether how we're helping them, I'm not sure. Like that part's still a mystery. Like what's going to happen to the ascended souls? Are we going to have more powers or whatever? I don't know. But I don't. Biblically, the souls are in different have different purposes. In the whole thing. There's some warriors that stay. There's some that go. And I think there's some that walk the two worlds. They don't say that in the Bible, but they talk about it in the Hopi prophecy. So it'll be interesting, but eventually, people have to stand up and fight for their freedoms. These souls that don't want to fight right now are going to have to stand up and fight at some point. They have to. It's like, my God.
Well, if they don't, they have to go around all over again.
Exactly. They probably, maybe that's the whole purpose of it. They just have to live through their consequence for not caring, because they don't care. They don't care. I actually spoke to a relative of mine. I'm like, why don't you care about any of this? And he goes, well, it doesn't affect me. I'm like, well, what about your grandchildren? Well, that's about them. That's not about me. And this was this is part of my family. But I'm like, what? You don't care about your kin, your future kin? You don't care? I don't care. I was just like, so it's, I don't get it, right? I'm just kind of like, wow. He goes, I don't want to know this stuff you're telling me. I said, but it's for your future children, your grandchildren. So it just goes way. And what do you do? Like you can't help somebody that's not even in a caring mode. Like they don't care. They don't care about anything. So it's like, But I'm like, well, eventually you'll care because you won't be able to leave your house ever.
Yeah. It's one thing that, like, we were talking about uh the way things are, where there's a gentleman in Washington DC. He's known by the courts of the UN and so on. He's lobbied. He's the king of the Britons. So the king, basically, he's the king of Wales, and he's lobbied and he's recognised, and he's actually served the English crown and the English government with the papers, all the processes. He even came into Britain on his own passport, sovereign passport, and they stopped him, checked him out, and let him go with it. And
Wow.
After 3 weeks of being in Wales, meeting people and discussing things and traveling around, they kicked him out the country for no reason. Just said, get out. So he had to do that then to become a prince in exile. So
Right. Yes, I know this guy. Yeah, I saw him.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he's the prince, right?
Well, it's not there was another guy who tried to claim it, but this I think he's American Indian.
Aussie.
That's a different guy.
But I think he's an American Indian. So I think he gets his Welsh roots through what we were speaking about earlier, through Prince Madoc, which Prince Madoc was King Arthur's brother. You see?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he's claimed his right to challenge the crown and everything, and they've proved his case. So he's in Washington at the moment, lobbying for Wales to be recognised as a sovereign country and all the rest of it, and so that's quite interesting.
Yeah, well, it's the root of it all, really, like a big, huge root of it, you know?
Yeah, it just all comes round full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nuts. It's just like, wow. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. And it's just kind of just sitting here being observer and just trying to for me, I just like guessing to try to kind of figure out when things are going to happen, because I just find it entertaining, and my subscribers find it entertaining, and I'm okay to be wrong. I don't care if I'm wrong. Well, whatever, well, I didn't have all the info, but it's just fun because it's fun when things match, like to the history. Then you can see that it's just relooping, and it helps people understand it's all a bit of an illusion.
But another thing that came to mind when I was learning all the history is if the British people, the Cymry, the King David's people, the Israelites, if they didn't have their history covered over and had so much changed, that if Hitler knew, what would he have done if he knew that the British people were the actual the Jews in a sense, because that's what they would have been called, wouldn't they? The Israelites.
Yeah, I think they all knew. I think they knew. I think the whole war was a farce. I don't even think he lost.
No.
I think he went to Argentina, and and then they just infiltrated the US, and it's like none of it is true. The only thing that's true is all the people that die.
Yeah.
It's like it's just and the suffering that they allow to have happen on this planet. But I guess I was thinking about this, like, why do they allow so much suffering? But and so I thought about it a lot, and I was just like, well, the suffering is part of your awakening, right? You have to suffer to be awakened. So if they see it as a really big game, like that person, he suffers, then he dies, then he goes back, he gets to do it again. Like I guess if you see it from an interdimensional point of view, you don't see any of it as like suffering, because it's just an education to learn, So I think this is kind of how they look at it. So they don't really care, in a way, because it's just like, this is just the way it is. This is a game of souls, and until you awaken and you don't want your suffering anymore, or you choose to But it must be hard for people that are living in, with no food and everything. Like the way they suffer, these people, it's terrible. It's like,
Yeah.
and why haven't they stopped people from starving? I always questioned this when I was young. I was like, well, if why of all the people that rule the world, why aren't they helping all these people that are starving? Why do they allow that?
Why do they
You know?
cause some of it by their acts? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
it's a
Why?
bit like
It's just
the
it's
divine.
to keep the frequency. Yeah, the
Yeah,
frequency. They want the frequency to stay low on the planet. So if you think of it like a soul game, the only thing you have control of is you. And the only thing you can do to help this planet is to be happy. It's the only thing you can do. You can't physically one person go up against the institution. You can maybe try to group a bunch of people, but then sometimes you're angry when you're doing that. So this is still low frequency.
it's
So
like
it's
what we
like,
said about Buddha the other day, or the other episode is those that are awakened are in a constant state of amazement, and if you see beyond the suffering and the hardships, then
mhm,
everything is just amazing.
exactly. It's like, I think it's almost like you have to learn to become an adult by thinking like an adult, and thinking like an adult is learning how to control yourself. And then when you can control yourself, then you connect to this higher realm of consciousness, which would be God, or and then you see everything as divine, because suffering is all for your own lessons to learn anyhow. So even if all the people that you love die, which has pretty much happened in my case, you see it as something that helped me awaken. I don't see it as nefarious, and then I don't see it as sad, because those souls are free. So when somebody dies, it's not sad. I'm actually happy for them. You know, it's like, oh my God, you got to do it all over again. It's like, good for you. You don't
It's
have
like,
to.
take me. Why is it
Yeah,
on my
yeah,
turn?
yeah. I think I'm here for the long haul.
What do you mean you
Anyhow.
get to go before me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But kind of, it's like, it's just a body. We're so attached to this friggin' body. It's like, it's our happiness. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh, it
Even if you,
wrinkles up and it gets grey and oh no, no,
yeah,
no.
exactly. It's not. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, be happy with every stage of your life, and everything that's going on in your life. Is see it as something that's you can learn from, or whatever. And then I think then you can kind of get out of this. And then if everybody did that, if everybody worked on controlling their emotional state and brought it to a happy place, the whole planet would be better. It's like, how do you teach people to be happy?
I mean, it'd be an overnight change if everybody in the consciousness effect was that instant, and then oh, that'd be amazing.
I know, but it's just like, nobody. It's almost like people don't even want to be happy. They're so like stuck in the drama of being miserable or complaining. It's always the blame game. It's always like, I'm not happy because you did this to me, or I'm not happy because I don't have enough money, or I'm not happy because I'm not famous enough, or I don't have a job that's good enough, or I don't have a house. It just goes on and on and on. I'm not happy because you'll never be happy if you think like that, because it's like, the only moment you have to be happy is now. There is no tomorrow. There's only now. Just be happy now. I think it's not. I'm not preaching, but I'm just saying that this is the whole key to it all. Not saying I've mastered it. No way have I mastered it, but I do know it's the key.
I think
You know?
a big deal with it is where kids haven't got good idols. They've got idols which are on the telly or on the computer or whatever they are. They're not. The idol needs to be their father and their mother.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I tell my daughter. I say, well, you're not happy because that person's this and you're not that and you're this. I said, if you go through life thinking like that, you'll be miserable your whole life. Because there's always somebody wealthier than you, prettier than you, smarter than you, but there's always somebody less smart than you, less pretty than you. So, like, which way are you going to look at it? You don't compare yourself. And then when you do astrology, you realize that every person has a different map. So it's not logical to compare yourself to anybody else. You came in here with your own lessons to learn. It tells you in the sky what your lesson was to learn, and your 3 wheels tell you how you're going to learn it. And if you haven't figured out yourself and know yourself, you're going to be confused. But so there's no point in even comparing yourself, because that person's learning something totally different than what you're learning, what you came here to learn. So it's like, but that's what they teach us to do, right? They teach you, oh, you have to look like that person, and you have to have that fancy house, and you have to have that car, and then so that you're all the same. And this is that logic is what keeps us all miserable.
I think that's something my grandfather knew about me, because my grandfather raised me from 18 months old. I think that's something he knew about me. I was quite strong-willed and tough-headed sort of thing. And by the time I got to like an age like 12, 13, where I could start making my own mind up more, I didn't want to be in school. It wasn't, half of what was in school I wasn't even interested in, So I never used to mooch. I used to go home. My old man was like, all right, if you don't want to be in school, you'll learn something here. You'll do woodwork with me, or a bit of plumbing, or show me something, teach me something.
Yeah. Well, that's really teaching children, it's like the whole school system. Teach them to be what? I don't even like the system, like, because they don't teach you to think out of the box. They teach you to be in the box. So the whole system is not good. It's not healthy, and that's why you get so many young, well, especially girls, that just feel inadequate and everything. It's like, it's not good. It's like, I've always worked for myself. Because I don't want to be in anybody's box. I can't. I can't. I just can't work for anybody else, because they try to put you in a box. And so I just I'd rather have less money in a way, not be as wealthy, but be happy and do my own thing and when I want. And if it doesn't go well, what's my fault? It's nobody else's fault. You know what I mean? Like, it's just all, you feel like you're the king of your own little domain. And this gives you some type of sense that you're in charge of your own life. But working for other people, it's like, I don't know. It's just, I can't do it. Some people can, some people are happy doing that. They like the social aspect, but I don't like it. It's like, but everybody's different. But anyhow, it's a crazy world, but let's hope eventually it gets sane. I think it will. Thank God. Can you imagine? Honestly, I do believe that we've lived 360 lifetimes to get to this point. We didn't make it through last time. So I don't want to do another 360. I was like,
it's been one of the biggest synchronicities I've found through my time with those communities I've had. A lot of people will turn around in the sense that they will admit they feel like this is a prison planet, or they feel like they've done this before, or they feel a repetitive thing. And I would turn around to that individual and I'd laugh. I'd say to them, of course you have done this a flicking million times. You're one.
I know.
There's not a dozen of us. There's only one of us.
I know. But have you guys watched the Soul movie yet from Walt Disney? The little cartoon?
No.
Oh, yeah. I haven't watched it, but I watched somebody do a breakdown on it.
It's a cartoon, that.
Yeah. But it tells you it's showing you the whole reloop and the karma and, everything about it. And it's basically you're stuck there and you got to come back and you got to come back and you got to come back until you figure out the purpose of life. And they call the one that just, she's like, oh, okay, I'll be a human, but is the purpose of life just being happy with this flower? And the other guy's, no, purpose of life is much bigger than that. But eventually she's called number 22, which is, I always see the number 22 as like you're the fool in the tarot deck, because there's like, that's the 0. There's 22 cards, and they call us the fool, right? Because we see happiness in everything. We're like cuckoo nuts. And this movie is showing that. But she eventually is the ascended soul, because she just finds joy in everything. She doesn't see it as a place to having to achieve something. The purpose of living is to just be happy, But it's just funny. It's just like, but yeah. So I thought that was cute, because that that's Walt Disney showing us, but he's a Mason, so they're showing us. It's whether or not you have the capacity to grasp it, right, or see it as real.
Yeah.
People think, oh, it's just it's not true. It's like it's just a joke, But,
well, they done the same with Marvel, didn't they? Where in the I think it might be the end game where they go back in time. They show that he shows the loop and the time travel, and he figures it out.
Yeah, I just watched it. I just watched it 2 nights ago, and I was like, they talk about the pearl. He goes back in time, and he sees his dad before he's born, right? Before he himself's born. He's talking to his dad. His dad's like, oh yeah, my wife's pregnant, and he goes, and then he says to his dad, he goes, well, my dad told me, gave me a pearl. He gave me a pearl. He told me that nothing is important. Nothing is as important as the time. So, and that was that. So I was like, oh my God, it's always about the pearl, and it's always about time. So it's like, it's looping, but it's also to appreciate time. It's not about, being, so that was a big drop that I noticed in the movie, that I was like, oh man. And then they showed the Mobius strip. That's why I watched it, because I had discovered the Mobius strip and I didn't know anything about that movie. And I went on YouTube and put Mobius strip in, and there was a band came up from England, and then the movie came up, and it showed that the Mobius strip was in there. I was like, oh, I got to watch the movie. So I watched it, and I was like, there you go. It's time travel. It is. It's time travel. And then, what about, you guys have heard about that book, right? The Last President, and Ingersoll. Yeah, Baron, the Underground Journey or something. The Underground Journey. Yeah, and so this was written in 1800s. Like that's an insert into the timeline. Come on.
Well, I was going to say another one is it's been held in a private library and released through Masonic libraries. I don't think it's necessarily been written then. I think more like it was made to look like it was written then. And recently.
Maybe, but I do think they know the timeline.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah.
I think they know the future, and I think they know how things play out. And
it's a bit like Mandela. I mean, if we go back into the time around Mandela, there's news articles of him dying in prison, and there's news articles of him getting released from prison.
I know,
and they're the same day.
I know, it's weird. It's like it's just bizarre, and so I'm like, are we just gonna wake up one day and like because Trump said in his last speech, he said we're gonna go back 8 weeks to the election. So I'm wondering, like, if we ascend, we don't even know, but it's just election day again, and Trump wins, and then Corona's gone, and everything's like normal, and then you know what I mean? Like I who knows?
I've got a sentence you're gonna like. Groundhog Day.
Yes, it's Groundhog Day. That's what I'm saying. It's just, we're just going to re-loop. And it's like, oh my God. And then we're walking around going, what the heck? And then nobody knows. It's only the ascended souls know.
Oh,
who the heck knows?
No.
I don't know how it's going
to. We would have to do a video on that. We'll have to sit there and record it.
But we don't know what ascension really is, right? But like they say that we disappear, but maybe, like I was thinking, like, because it's like, like there's parallel universes. So you and I are talking in another, universe, but maybe something else happened. You know what I mean? Like little things have changed. It's like the Twilight Zone. They did an episode in the Twilight Zone like that, with Jack Benny. It's like he went into his house and this is my house. No, it's not your house. You're somebody else. You're but I know you, but no, I don't know you. And it's like, so it's kind of like maybe there is another parallel universe, and that we have to merge with that other self, because they always show us, like even in this Endgame movie, that you have to battle the other you. You know what I mean? It's always like it's your shadow side.
I was even thinking in my mind there was the Back to the Future movie when they talk about the lines splitting off. Whatever you do, Marty, don't talk to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Don't talk to yourself. But it's like, because then you can change the timeline, right? But it's just, but that was all in the Endgame movie. They were battling themselves. They saw themselves. And I'm just like, Whoa, this is like crazy. What the hell are we in? We're in some type of holographic freaking crazy world.
This takes us back to the Bentov guy, the holographic cosmic egg.
Yep, it's true. Like, I don't know. It's just fascinating. And who the heck knows how it's all going to play out. But it's fun to kind of guess it and try to play around and see it. And it's like watching a movie and guessing how it's going to turn out, right? But I think for me, it brings me joy to do that, because every time I see something and it does plan out, you know, like with Odin showing up at the wild protest, I was just like, it was hilarious. But all my Patriot friends didn't want to acknowledge it.
The funny thing was, we did our last recording and we spoke about something symbolic, what to expect. And then the morning or the evening after, I got a message from one of the Synchronicity members with the BBC article with him on the face. And I was like that. As soon as you're awake, your time, because we've got a time difference between us, you're going to be messaging me. That was my thought. And as I thought that, you messaged me. I was sitting there going, check this out.
I know. It's just crazy. And at first it didn't clue in, right? Like, I was so much chaotic stuff going on. Like, the woman got shot and then one of my subscribers said to me, the guy, that was Odin. And then it just hit me. I was like, oh my God. Like, I was so caught up in the drama of it all that I didn't even realize the guy was Odin. You know what I mean? Like, I had missed my own. And then I was like, oh my God, it is. He showed up and he sat in a freaking chair. And then I started researching all his tattoos. And then I was like, oh my God, these are all Odin tattoos all over his body, because the Triskelion goes to Odin. So there you go. So it's pretty funny. Like, and I'm sure Trump planted him. There's no other
Even if it
way.
wasn't Trump, probably divine. And I don't mean to go at the next level, but a divine synchronicity, you know, there's so much in that.
No, it's impossible. This guy pretended he was a Trump supporter last year, and he was interviewed at a climate change rally. And, you know, there's no way a Trump supporter went to a climate change rally. They don't believe in climate change. They don't go to climate change rallies. They think it's all cuckoo stuff. So it's like, you know, the fact that he was being, and the crazy part about it is, this is even more crazier. The interviewer who interviewed him, and he was acting like he was a Trump supporter, she works out of Phoenix, Arizona, out of a newspaper that is a complete left-wing newspaper out of Phoenix. Okay, so it's like, come on. It's like
just can't script it. It's truly well scripted.
Oh my God. It's like a mastermind who's doing all this, you know? And they must all know. They have to all know. It's like they have to, because even at the beginning of the rally, Trump's son and his wife were singing, and the music was blasting. It was Gloria. And then there's when I was Googling, you know, what could happen on Barron Trump's birthday, Gloria Estefan had a truck accident back in whatever on Barron Trump's birthday. You know, and Gloria Estefan, you know, it's like, it's just so weird. I was just kind of like, what the heck? They've coded it all to past history so you can find the breadcrumbs, you know? And then as you're finding the breadcrumbs, you realize it's all make-believe. Like our reality is the make-believe, you know? And your dream state probably is reality.